Hey guys, Nathan here from Salty Productions. I just wanted to state before the video starts that I wasn't entirely sure how to set up the visuals for this video because the following commentary is me talking about something that I found interesting. It's not opinionated enough or factual enough to follow the format of On the Subject Of, which is an audio-only podcast-esque type of video. Instead, I figured that I would throw on the chillest gameplay possible, which I found was cruising the highways of San Andreas in GTA 5. If you want to tab out and simply listen while doing something else, I would highly encourage that. Otherwise, there is gameplay to accompany the audio if you would still like to watch. Thanks, and I'll let the video roll. What is going on, everybody? Nathan here, back again with another video commentary, and today I would like to talk about a certain fascinating psychological phenomenon that sort of occurred to me while watching The Hurt Locker. Now, The Hurt Locker is a military action thriller from 2008. It is an amazing movie, absolutely fantastic, and that is not only my personal endorsement, but it has a 98% positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 94% positive rating on Metacritic. So this movie is fantastic. Now, the first time I watched it was actually a couple of years ago. I believe I was 15 at the time or something like that. And you know, when you sort of watch a movie the first time around, you just sort of get the emotional aspect of the movie. You're sort of seeing things for the first time, whereas if you watch it the second time around, you're a lot more analytical and you notice a lot more details about the movie that you missed on the first go-around. And that's what occurred to me when I was watching this movie a month ago or so. Now, the first time around, I was focused a lot on the action and the suspense of the movie. The Hurt Locker is very intense. I was like, my palms and my body was physically sweating while I was sitting watching this movie. I specifically remember that from like the years ago that I watched this movie. But when I watched this movie for the second time around, I didn't exactly remember what was going on or what was going to happen. But I sort of had a general idea, and I knew when there were sort of surprising points coming. So instead, I focused more on the analytical side of this movie. I was a lot more thought about the movie as if I was sort of in that situation. So a lot more like empathy type of feeling. And what I noticed, it would help to actually explain the characters in the movie. The protagonist is basically this, I believe he's an army ranger, but he's basically a bomb tech. And you find out in the first like 20 minutes of the movie, this guy is a major adrenaline junkie. It is insane the lengths to which this guy goes to get his adrenaline kick. He risks the safety of himself and he risks the safety of others in order to take risks and have that adrenaline surge. Now, his job is to basically defuse IEDs and improvised explosives that are found within the Middle East, within towns that might have terrorist organizations or people who just wish to do bad. Now, I was thinking as I was watching this movie, so normally these guys have this drone that they will actually sort of drive in, and then they will use the drone to defuse the bomb, either by just planting explosives on the bomb and blowing it up themselves with a very safe and clear radius of people, or in certain circumstances, they need to actually send in a guy in a full suit of like explosive resistant armor to actually go in and hands-on defuse this thing. So this guy, the main protagonist, will purposely forego the use of the drone, which is just a piece of equipment. Like, who gives a fuck if that thing is destroyed, right? He will purposely forego the use of the drone and don this bomb suit every single time to defuse whatever needs to be defused. Every single time. This guy is risking his own life, which he has a very good chance of dying because this bomb suit is explosive resistant. It will not protect against, basically, if you're within, I'm just making up numbers here. If you're within 100 feet from a bomb, this suit is going to do absolutely nothing to protect you. So once this guy enters the sphere of death, it sort of occurred to me that this bomb defusal situation is possibly the most sustained amount of adrenaline that you could possibly grant a human being, right? And it sort of harkens back to prehistoric times when people were being hunted by predators. Because if you think about it, if you are like alone in the woods and you know that there are one or possibly many predators that are hunting you, right? That is a very sustained rush of adrenaline because you need to get the fuck out of that situation. But the difference is with this bomb defusal situation is that this guy is like purposely putting himself in this situation, which is absolutely fascinating to me. It means that psychologically there is something that sets this guy apart from everybody else. Like, I understand the adrenaline rush. I understand how this guy, like, when you are in this radius of death, how the sheer emotions that you're experiencing, like how much more in touch with reality you could possibly be in the situation where you could literally die at any second. Like, how much more in touch with life and reality could you possibly be than in this sphere of death? And that was the other sort of fascinating psychological phenomenon, is that like you have this theoretical graying of the border between life and death, right? So if we imagine life on one side, you have the act of dying as this wall, and then death on the other side, death and darkness and blackness and nothing. You have, in this bomb defusal situation, you have this graying of the line between life and death where you really don't know which side of the wall that you are on because of the sheer chance that you could be non-existent from one moment to the next is just fucking mind-blowing. So there's that. But what also occurred to me as well is that this guy is like, there's something psychologically wrong with this person. And I think this guy is an extreme example of adrenaline junkies that exist in our world, basically, where we know those adrenaline junkies who do the extreme sports, who, you know, skydive, who do these incredible stunts. But what's curious to me is because we all know what the feeling of adrenaline feels like. We all know in that situation from moment to moment, you are in touch with everything around you. You can see sharper. You can hear more acutely. Your brain is going through emergency mode, and every human experiences this. But what separates us normal people who understand adrenaline and value it for when it's useful, but we don't seek it out. But these people actively seek out this drug, which very, very much has a significant chance of ending their life. You know, you watch the YouTube videos of, you know, these people who will climb these massive buildings and there's parkour where you fucking high up off the ground, man. And it's like, what separates these people? Like, why do they value adrenaline so much more than everybody else? How is their wiring different? And it's sort of draws a parallel to people who are addicted to other drugs. You know, like, we get how. Or I guess, I don't know, do we understand how drugs like heroin or even just alcohol are addictive? Do we understand that? And if we do, can we apply that same sort of science to adrenaline? Why are these people, like, why are these people different, and what allows these people to, is it the fact that they just get a much more natural high off of adrenaline than everybody else? Is it the fact that sometime in their childhood they experienced a lot of adrenaline, so they have almost like a sort of nostalgic effect. Or maybe it's the fact that they are just wired to receive more stimuli. They like more stimuli. There's perhaps a difference between extroverts and introverts in this situation, where extroverts just love having more stimuli, but maybe adrenaline junkies take it to a massive extreme where they need so much stimuli in order to function normally, that they seek out these amazing stunts so that the adrenaline kicks into their system and they are receiving 10 to 100 times the stimuli that you would just have walking around. Now, the last curious thing that I noticed about this movie, and this sort of relates to the adrenaline junkie notion, is that this protagonist of this movie, he goes home. He's done with his rotation in this company, and he has a beautiful wife, a beautiful child, a home, nice pay, and he goes home and he's bored, right? He's bored with everyday life, and like that really hit home with me somehow, where it's like, on some level, I could actually understand how somebody could be so immensely bored with everyday life, because that's one thing that I've noticed about just life in general. If we're going to get really philosophically deep here, is that normal everyday life is actually really boring. If you haven't ever sort of thought about this before. Like, people have the same routine every single day. And I think that the only thing that really helps people get through the day is that they like to think that they're doing something fulfilling. For example, an engineer is going to take pride in his work, right? He's going to value what he's creating. But on some level, like, I could sort of see into the mind of this other person, this adrenaline junkie, where it's like nothing can possibly satisfy this person, right? So, like, if I sort of step into the shoes of this person, my perspective is that, well, fuck having like a 9-to-5 job, right? Like, fuck patterns, fuck anything that's repetitive, because repetitive is boring. What you need is something new. You need 10 times, like, I don't understand this at all, but I do at the same time. That's what's so confusing. That's what I fucking love about the situation. I'm confused and I understand everything at the same time, because like, I get how repetitive things can be boring. I get how life can seem boring, but at the same time, I come from the perspective of a normal person, where I value routine. I get enjoyment out of everyday life. So it's just interesting how people are wired so differently, that their perceptions on life are entirely different than my own or the person next to me. So it's really like this sort of notion of the subjectivity of perspectives on life, and how people can just have such diverse perspective that's just fascinating. So everything about this movie, to me, when I was watching it, was fascinating from a psychological perspective and also a philosophical perspective. So I guess there isn't really a takeaway of this commentary. I just wanted to explain my fascination with this movie. But if anything, I would recommend that you guys definitely check out The Hurt Locker and watch The Hurt Locker. I can't guarantee that you will have this sort of analytical epiphany that I have had. But if anything, it's an amazing movie, very suspenseful. And I would definitely recommend checking it out. So that's what I found interesting about The Hurt Locker. And again, what I can do is I could sort of explain my thoughts about this movie, and I can also recommend this movie. That's I guess the takeaway of this video. But that is my time for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. I guess thank you for putting up with maybe perhaps thoughts that don't really seem to make sense, but I think that I articulated them well enough to sort of explain how this movie is absolutely mind-blowing. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Again, feel free to leave a rating on the video. Feel free to subscribe and all of that fun stuff. And hopefully I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.